we've talked about a bunch of different risks, and I've ignored a couple of them just because of time. But we've talked about occupational fraud, we've talked about cyber attacks, we've talked about
Mhm.
defending your reputation. We didn't really talk about a safe workplace, which is a whole other section that you get into. It's worthy of another interview. I'm kind of curious, out of all those risks, though, what have you seen, Ivy, like as if you were to prioritize, and I realize it depends on the business, so but you know, based on your clients, based on your experience, is there any one of those risks that you see as like, more prevalent than the others, that if you were advising anybody getting into a business to say, hey, you know what, this is like probably your biggest risk and you should be focusing on this first?
For every small business, that's going to be occupational fraud.
Okay.
So the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners estimates that businesses across the board, regardless of size, lose about 5% of their revenue annually to occupational fraud. For small businesses, that number is much higher. So you think about it this way. You've got for every, $10 you're bringing in, you've got some money walking out the back door
Sure.
that belongs to you, right? And so why would you do that? For a small business, it's probably closer to 10%. So you for every $10, you've got a dollar that somebody's putting in their pocket. So for a small business, this one is probably the most tricky to manage because the knowledge of the business owner tends to be a limiting factor in how to control for this, which is why I give a lot of resources in the book for how to work with occupational fraud. I have seen a lot of customers come to me because they've been dealing with occupational fraud. They discover it after the fact. They're trying to recover from it. And it's a very difficult thing to recover from. So I would say, cyber is a very, very close second. But for many small businesses, that occupational fraud thing is a huge issue. In fact, when I tell people what I do and I tell small business owners what I do, I almost always get a story about how somebody discovered they were being stolen from or how it's their biggest fear that it'll happen to them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right in that assessment. And again, occupational fraud can be anything from embezzling money to stealing office supplies, so
Yes.
that's it's all part of it. And
Yes.
and I see that at so many of my clients. So that's great advice.